This is Volusia Today, a public information radio program brought to you by the County of Volusia. Here is your host, Kevin Captain.
Good morning and welcome to Volusia Today. I'm Kevin Captain and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton Jackson. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Volusia Today is made possible by our sponsors, the Daytona Beach International Airport, the Ocean Center, Volusia Recycles, and Votran Public Transportation. Good morning, Clayton.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We've got two good guests in the studio today. We've got Jessica Fentress. She's become very popular around Volusia County and very knowledgeable. She's our Coastal Director. And we've got Ben Bartlett. He's our Public Works Director. And today they're going to talk to us a little bit about what's going on our coast.
It sounds very interesting, and I cannot wait to get into it.
Well, let's get right into it then, Clayton. So we just came off the tail end of some inclement weather over the last week. And Jessica, was that what we would define as a nor'easter, or tell us about it and what are the conditions like after that storm?
Yeah, it was a classic nor'easter. You get a couple of days of intense surf, wind blowing. You know, I stood there on the beach and I felt like I was on a boat going full throttle. We were getting 30-mile-per-hour winds sustained. We took damaging waves. The tide was up at the seawalls. The tide was past our temporary protection measures. Luckily, we didn't sustain any major structural damage to our buildings.
Good.
The temporary measures, acted as a first line of defense, and we're happy to see that we kind of survived this very well. This is typically a storm we get in February or March, so we have been very lucky this off season, and a late Easter nor'easter is kind of rare.
I was just going to say, we are fortunate because we talked about nor'easters, months ago, and we were concerned about them coming up, but it is April, and so we've got that. But we also just came off a full moon last week as well, too. Did that influence the tide and the what you mentioned before, I think, run up?
Yeah, so when you have a full moon, you have a lunar high tide, and so you typically have a higher than normal high tide. We were on the back end of the full moon, so we weren't at the peak lunar high tide, but we weren't on a low tide cycle. Let's just put it that way.
Now, are we expecting more of this inclement weather? Any other upcoming storms that we should be aware of?
Yeah, what does your crystal globe say?
Well, long-range forecast, as any surfer or waterman knows, is always subject to question. But there is something out there we're monitoring in the next 2 weeks. We're hopeful it goes away. We're also monitoring the seaweeds. We started bringing some seaweed in this past couple of days, after this nor'easter, which, everybody who lives in Volusia, we love the seaweed. It helps you fix your beaches. So we are very happy to see the seaweed come ashore.
That's that sargassum seaweed
Yep.
that's coming, and they've been talking about, tons and tons of it. They really don't know where it's going to go, but if it does come here, we've talked about that kind of, you said accretion, is that like that's like the magnetic properties that it has to attract sand?
Well, accretion is just the growing of your
Okay.
beach, so collecting of sand. But if you think about it, it stops sand immediately. And if a storm event comes through, it kind of acts as a Band-Aid on a wound. It helps retain the soil that is under it so you don't lose more. We've been in contact with DEM, the Florida Division of Emergency Management, as well as the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And I know they are working very closely with the governor's office to allow us to capitalize on any large volumes of sargassum that may make their way to our shore.
Good deal.
And you just mentioned just a minute ago about the protective measures put in play and how they did help. Tell us a little bit about the trap bags. We've heard a lot about those lately, and just how do they hold up over the weekend's events?
So our trap bags, we started installing a couple weeks ago, and we focused primarily on county property so that we could, get good at it before we started moving to private property owners. And our permit allows us to have 2 trap bags placed horizontally next to each other. And this is not meant as a hurricane protection device. This is not meant as a permanent solution. It is purely just a temporary level of protection to keep you through the summer tide events. We still encourage every property owner to get their permanent protection permitted and constructed as fast as possible. But they held up well. We had a couple at Frank Rendon that kind of fell over, but they're still working. That's the thing everybody needs to understand, is it may not be standing up perfect, but it's still doing its job, retaining the soil beneath it, and it's also still breaking the waves. So it's a buffer. It's not going to be your permanent level of protection.
And one reason we went with the trap bag system versus just putting a sand berm down in front of these properties as protection is exactly what happened this last week. If you just put loose sand down in front of people's property, there's a decent chance that sand is gone.
It's gone, yeah.
So the trap bags provide a way for that sand to be retained, that we're using the funds from the governor provided to provide that protection. Loose sand, most likely a large portion of it would have been washed away in an event like this. However, with it being contained in the trap bags, you get that protection, but it's still there after the waves recede.
And we talked about the sand being required to be beach compatible, and I've seen figures anywhere from, I think you said, it could be millions of dollars of sand in just, a mile or two? I mean, so that's
Correct.
expense that you're...
Yeah, I mean, one of the more valuable resources there is today, given the damage to the coastline, is beach-compatible sand. And we've been fortunate through the hard work of Jessica and our staff to secure sand for free from the Florida Inland Navigation District. We still have to truck it, but there's still a cost there that it takes to get that sand to the beach, and it is a valuable resource, and to lose it in a storm like this would be tough, which is what the benefits of the trap bags offer.
There's another benefit that we haven't talked about much lately, and this was realized this past Easter morning. We started in Daytona on private property. We are removing debris, so derelict seawalls, broken concrete, whatever's on the beach, as long as it's not structurally holding the buildings up. We remove the debris, and then we place the trap bags in place. We had a nesting Kemp's Ridley on Sunday morning, Easter
I
morning
heard about
at
that.
sunrise.
That's one of those rare turtles.
Rare turtles usually nest during the day. We were very fortunate that our turtle surveyors actually had the opportunity to witness her laying her nest. What she did was she came on shore, she bumped into our trap bags a couple of times, and then decided to nest below the high tide line. The turtle surveyor was fortunate enough to be able to relocate that nest to a more viable location where the high tide line does not reach as high on the beach in Ormond. But if you look at the alternative, if we had not done that, then you would have had derelict seawalls, you would have had concrete and rubble.
Right.
She could have injured herself or entrapped herself. Or, the worst case possibility, she could have had a dune collapse on top of her while she was excavating for her clutch to be laid. So we consider this a massive success story. We thought it would work this way. To see it actually happen and provide, an environmental benefit as well is really, encouraging.
Well, incredible. That is amazing to hear.
That is
How
cool.
people and wildlife can coexist in these times that we're going through. So, again, going back to the storm we just had, the county and our partners have made tremendous strides in our assets, building our assets back up from the hurricanes Ian and Nicole. So did we experience any type of, not destruction, but damage to any of our coastal assets we had over the weekend?
We did. Thankfully, it was minimal. We are going to be able to get those assets back open probably within the next couple of days, if not next week at the latest. It was minimal damage. We lost a couple of steps on the bottom, just wave knocking our assets around. Nothing significant, no more major collapses. Some temporary measures we had in place at the El Portal Beach Ramp and the Amelia Beach Ramp and Daytona Beach Shores. We put in sand fill, just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. Sand fill does not sustain during a tide event. We knew it was sacrificial. So once the tide lays down and we get some back into a dry weather forecast, we're going to make some temporary repairs to the ramps again and get them back open to the public.
That's great.
And I will say, when it comes to rebuilding our coastal assets, our ramps and our walkovers, Coastal Division is one of 7 divisions of Public Works, but we've engaged road and bridge, trades workers and crews, as well as other crews throughout the department to get out, and they've been going full force working to provide access where walkovers were damaged. We're constructing in-house, stairs to get folks down to the beach, and we're road and bridge road crews are out there repairing ramps. So it's been all hands on deck to try to get those assets available for folks, because we know how important that beach access is as we get into the summer months.
Ben, it's the truth. I mean, I know Jessica said before that every person's walkover that they use is something personal to them, and I can attest. Your teams are out there, and our walkover. I live not too far from the water, and it's great. We got to walk over, and and it's not what it looked like before, but hey, it's access.
Get you to the
and
beach.
Yes, and it's great. So we're talking with Jessica Fentress. She's our Coastal Director for Volusia County, and Ben Bartlett, the Public Works Director. We'll take a quick break and come back and continue talking about some coastal updates. Stay with us.
Subscribe to the Volusia County YouTube channel.
And hit the bell icon to know what's happening in your hometown.
There are so many great places to explore.
And things to learn.
With over 1,000 videos available right now, the channel offers something for everyone.
Let's go!
Did you know we have countless features showcasing history, nature, wildlife, and recreation? Subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Or that we live stream important county meetings and workshops where leaders make decisions that can impact our everyday lives. Did you subscribe yet?
Or that we record our weekly radio show, Volusia Today, where we interview staff from the different divisions and departments across our great county, and they discuss the nitty-gritty of their field and expertise.
Go ahead, subscribe.
But that's not it. There's more. Subscribe and hit the bell icon and fully explore.
Score!
We're back. I'm Clayton Jackson along with Kevin Captain, and you're listening to Volusia Today, a public information program brought to you by the County of Volusia. So, I want to circle back to the trap bags we were just talking about a minute ago. I am, very glad that they were able to withstand the storm that happened over the weekend. So, now that they are still there, how long are the trap bags going to remain in place?
Well, part of installing these trap bags is the county had to get basically an area-wide permit from the DEP to install them along the entirety of the coast. The conditions of that permit require those trap bags to be removed by March of 2025 at the latest. They also require, once a property owner constructs their permanent seawall, that they be removed as well. The advantage to this system is they're filled with beach-compatible sand. They would be behind the location where these folks would construct their permanent armament, and they can basically cut the trap bags, pull the bag itself out, and then they've left with good beach-compatible sand that they can use for backfill behind their seawall. So it's really, the sand itself technically never has to go away. They can use it for backfill. The bags at some point have to be removed because they are considered temporary.
But it's a containment device is really,
Correct.
kind of what you mentioned. And the other thing I heard you say, Ben, in the start was, an area-wide permit that the county had to get from the DEP. I don't think everybody realizes the fact that the county has to get the same permits that any property owner, condo owner, anything like that. And that's a lengthy process as well, too, correct?
It is correct. That's why we haven't repaired some of our larger vehicle ramps and parks. We have to go through the exact same permit process. We have to get structural engineers. We have a longer process because we have to go through a procurement process on top of the permitting process.
Good point.
We are making repairs to the Dahlia Park yesterday, today, through the weekend, and next week. We hope to have Dahlia open back up in the next couple of months. But we are going through the same laborious process that our residents are going through.
Just takes time.
Yep. And for private residents who live on the coast and they want to, reconstruct or repair, what have you, how should they go about the process of obtaining a permit for them to be allowed to do so?
So if you are looking for your permanent repairs, you need to engage a professional engineer. And I would, again, encourage you to interview your engineers, make sure they have the capacity to put an application in for you. Basically, workload. You don't want to get an engineer that has 100 properties and he's behind the ball on all of them. You want to get an engineer that is knowledgeable on the Coastal Construction Control Line Permitting Program. And if you're kind of late to the game, you may need to go outside of Volusia County. You may want to start hitting some of the engineers along the east coast of Florida who do have experience in CCCL permitting with the state, but they just may not be local. They may have a better capacity to perform your project for you.
And we talked about things taking time, and the permitting process is just one thing, but we also know that there's only a certain limited number of engineers and architects and whatnot that are skilled in CCCL, that type of work. Plus, are there also supply chain issues and other maybe inflationary pressures that are compounding the time it's going to take for a complete repair on the coast?
Yes, there's a couple. So once you get your permit, you are looking at a large capital purchase to buy your materials. Somewhere, I've heard quotes from some property owners, condos on the shores that are looking at $300,000 to $400,000 in just materials alone. Wow. It takes time to procure that. If you decide to buy it now in hopes that you can get to construction soon, you may have to find a place to store it. So you have to have your contractor available as well. See if they have the option to store it on site, on their site. I know, and I recently heard yesterday that one of our condos is experiencing time delays with their SBA loans. I just found out that the SBA loans are time limited, kind of like how, a pre-mortgage approval is time limited, but it's dependent upon receiving the FDEP permit. So I would work very closely with your consultants, your contractors, and, if you are in a situation where you are coming up on a time crunch for an SBA loan, where maybe you're getting $1 million for a condominium, you need to reach out to your consultant, and you need to have your consultant reach out to DEP and let them know that you are on a very strict time frame with regards to possibly putting your funding at risk.
And I think you got to remember, we have sustained significant damage here in Volusia County, but other parts of the state, specifically Southwest Florida, sustained significant damage as well.
Yes.
So, that puts a strain on all the resources, from contractors to materials to any kind of construction, not just coastal construction. So you're seeing those inflationary pressures, those supply chain issues, hit everybody.
It's a good point, Ben, and the whole state had damage from Nicole and Ian, and now look at what we're seeing in Fort Lauderdale with flooding, and all these things are compounding. And let me ask you: have we ever really been through anything like this before, with this much damage to the coast?
Hurricane Matthew was pretty significant, but I don't think it rose to this level. Obviously, in Volusia County, we had the 2004 storms, which caused some damage. Specifically, I think New Smyrna Beach was damaged pretty significantly in the 2004 storms. You want to?
So I've talked to a lot of longtime residents and just the number of people that I've talked to. And I heard a stat from a gentleman. He was in his late 80s, early 90s. And he told me that this was the worst storm he's seen he is aware of since about 1940s. In 1940s, we had significant structural failure on our coastline. I believe that's where a lot of these old coquina seawalls that we see and the palm tree pile structures that are now getting unearthed on our beaches, I think that's when those were installed, was after the 1940s hurricane.
And that's how much sand got swept away that we're now able to see that, just like that architectural finding in the shores as well, too.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're learning through this whole process as our property owners, condo owners, and I think, maybe in a future show we can talk more about resiliency and how we need to, be more resilient for these types of storms, because they're probably not going to get any smaller.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just go back when we talk about these the SBA loans. Just want to remind our listeners and viewers that the Business Recovery Center and FEMA's Disaster Recovery Center did permanently close on March 31st. However, if you had submitted an application prior to the deadline, or you'd like to appeal a denial decision from the SBA or FEMA, that options are still available. Just because they have left town does not mean that you cannot still work with those representatives. If you go to volusia.org/PIN, we have the contact information for both of those organizations and information about how you may appeal a decision and follow up with the FEMA mobile app, the email, the website. So we just want to remind our listeners out there that just because they have left town does not mean that the assistance is still obtainable and achievable as long as you did apply before the deadline.
That's a good point, Clayton, because knowing now that we're discussing things take time, they can still go online, volusia.org/beach cleanup or /beach recovery. We can get information, and people can also sign up for a biweekly newsletter that we're pushing out on coastal updates, and you can just visit, again, volusia.org /beach recovery.
And I think you're saving YouTube videos there as well, so you can catch up on
Yes,
on some
Jessica, thank you.
updates.
Did you subscribe?
I did.
If it's what she's talking about is County of Volusia YouTube and County of Volusia Facebook and Instagram. Those are also great sources too that we're pushing
And you moved
information
out to podcast also? Is that what I heard?
We've got all the Volusia Today being moved to podcast. So on your favorite platform, absolutely. I'm sure you're going to go home and listen to this show, I hope. So let's just go back to trap bags. So we are working with FDEM in the placement of the trap bags. You've already started. The storm set us back a little bit. What would you say time-wise it'll take to at least get phase one, I guess I'm calling it phase one, to get the trap bags all done on our county coast?
So we have a lot of properties that need trap bags or would qualify for trap bags. And our hope is that as the permits are being released from FDEP, a lot of the folks who signed up for trap bags don't need them anymore. We are working very closely with FDEM, the Division of Emergency Management at the state level. They are the ones that manage the Tiger dams. They personally are replacing all the Tiger dams with trap bags. I know that it is their goal to be out of our county by the end of the month. So we are ramping up. We currently have 2 crews that are operating along our coastline. We will have a 3rd crew start on Monday in New Smyrna Beach. We kind of have to train a crew before we release them to work independently, so it's a slow ramp up. But we are hoping to get at least 5 county crews running simultaneously.
And it's important to note that we cannot install these trap bags until we receive a right of entry easement from those property owners to go on and do this work. So our public works staff is working out there with our cities and trying to contact these folks and get these easements signed so we can get those trap bags installed.
And just to reiterate on that, Ben, we've had a couple of different open houses and certainly lots of news releases and correspondence to any property owner on the coast if they have not entered into an easement agreement to do so. And we've got another opportunity coming up as well.
Yeah, this Monday actually, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., public works staff will be at the beach safety headquarters in Daytona Beach. So any resident who was on the coast and they are interested in receiving county assistance, that they would need to, like Ben was saying, to execute an easement with the county, but they could go this Monday from 9 to 4 and our staff can work with them, help them execute those agreements. Just want to let them know that also complimentary notary services will also be available for them. And again, anytime outside of that, please feel free to contact our Public Works Department. I think Shannon Minshew, she is the lead person taking care of the easements.
And it's important to note that even if you don't need trap bags, if you have temporary measures in place or your seawalls in place, we'd still urge you to sign the easement. Sure. Because the county, with the $37 million in funding that we receive from the state, will be looking at some point to place sand on the beach in form of some kind of dune nourishment or something like that, and we need easements for that as well.
And so just to tack on to that, Clayton, the Beach Safety Headquarters is where that event's going to be Monday, and it's 515 South Atlantic Avenue. It's the big yellow building. So we'll take our last break and come back and close up today's Coastal Edition. Stay with us.
Subscribe to the Volusia County YouTube channel.
Let's go!
There are so many great places to explore.
And things to learn.
We have countless features showcasing history, nature, wildlife, and recreation. Subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Go ahead, subscribe.
But that's not it. There's more. Subscribe and hit the bell icon and fully explore.
Score!
Welcome back to Volusia Today. I'm Clayton Jackson along with Kevin Captain. All right, so to close out here, going over what's going on around the coastal properties. Some of the coastal property owners, they have debris still on their property, and maybe that they've been using that debris as kind of a protective barrier. So now we're coming up on May 1st, which is the official start of turtle season. What would be your message for those property owners?
Well, I mean, we're urging all the coastal property owners to get that debris removed, unless it's directly along the escarpment protecting. But to get that debris removed prior to May 1st turtle nesting season, because it can be a hazard for the turtle habitat. Part of our permit for the trap bags requires us to remove debris in locations where we're placing trap bags. We're doing that now as part of that, and as part of the easements that those folks are signing, it allows us to do it. Debris removal, we're good at it on roads. This is a little bit different, obviously, on the beach. But it's very important that debris gets removed prior to the nesting season. We're urging all our residents to do what they can to get it done.
And like you said, Ben, you can't go on to those properties or in front of those properties if that property owner did not sign an easement.
Yes, that's correct.
So very important part to get if we're at any of those residents or condos that are left that haven't signed into it.
Yep.
And I just want to clarify, the easements are time limited. I know there's a lot of hesitation on signing an easement. You think, well, you're giving your rights forever. It's not. It expires after 5 years. So it's just enough time to get us through the initial response that we're in right now. And then if a sand placement opportunity presents itself in the next 5 years, and we hope there will be multiple, it gets you ahead of the game.
Yeah, then you've got the easement and placement, and you can
And they're
place
very
sand.
specific to what we're doing. It doesn't give us the right to go on and do anything on your property. It's very specific to removing debris, placing trap bags, and placing sand. So it doesn't give us the ability to do anything else.
So we've only got a minute left. Just maybe a close out today's show. We're going through some, something we've talked about not really seen. How long do you think before we're back to normal?
COVID, we're at a new normal.
We are.
I would ask for the public's patience. We still have 52 walkovers that are closed. We are aware of every single walkover that is closed. If we can do temporary repairs, we are going to do them. We're setting ourselves up to put some poles in place now so that when turtle nesting season comes, we can continue opening your walkovers. So just be patient with us, please.
And we have to work through the FEMA process on a lot of these reimbursements. There's $30 million in damage. FEMA will reimburse 75%. The state kicks in 12.5%. So it's a difference of being on the hook for $30 million or $3 million to the local taxpayers. So we got to work through that FEMA process to get reimbursed and get these assets back up.
And when you put it that way, Ben, we can all be patient for that,
Yes.
for certain. Well, thank you both so much for being on the show today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Volusia Today. Take care, stay safe, and help your neighbors. Have a great today.
If you have a comment about Volusia Today, or if there is a topic you would like to hear featured, please contact Volusia County Community Information at 1-866-345-0345.